Okay, let's call the May 8th Monterey County EMS Emergency Medical Care Committee meeting order. We'll start with a quick roll call, establishment of a forum, and then go into introductions.
Okay, so for members, Will Hiller.
Here.
Sam Clemick.
Here.
Jim Langborg.
Here.
Barry Robbins.
Here.
Jody Schaefer.
Here.
Paul Wood. Spencer Harnett.
Here.
Carla Spencer. Chris Borkin.
Here.
John Anthony. Dr. Hawthorne. Nope. Joe Cafaro. We do have a quorum. Ex officio members, Kelsey Scanlon, Teresa Rios, Leanne Migoski. All right. That's membership. We do have a quorum. If guests would like to introduce themselves.
Jessica Garcia, AMR Dispatch Manager.
I'm Marie Boots. I'm the EM physician. I'll take on the EMCC position next time.
Good.
Welcome.
And hey,
Justin Reyes, Monterey County Regional Fire.
Shane Vanderveen, Salinas Fire. Philip Brown, Tropical.
agency staff.
Blake Anderson with the EMS agency.
Rena Moreno with the EMS agency.
Kimberly Hernandez, AMS Agency.
Steve Brooks with the EMS agency and secretary to EMCC. That's it.
Moving on to public comment. Have any public comment? Hands raised on the Zoom world. Okay, take that as a no. Moving on to approval of the past EMCC meeting minutes.
Move approval of the March 13th, 2024 meeting minutes.
Seconded.
Okay, all in favor?
We'll probably want to do all in favor.
We'll just do all in favor. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nope.
Okay. Moving on to reports. First one, EMS Medical Director.
Thank you, Chief. So the Clinical Care Committee met this morning, and many of you were at that meeting, but a few things from that meeting. We announced that the 2024 Policy and Protocol Review Cycle is nearing its completion. We have released training materials pertaining to the 2024 Policy and Protocol changes, and hopefully you all have received those, and please let us know if you have any questions or concerns. With the completion of the 2024 cycle, we move into the 2025 cycle, and so we have released a list of the policies and protocols up for review that you can consider. Please also let us know if there are any additional policies and protocols that you'd like us to take a look at this next cycle. The Committee for Buprenorphine has been meeting with our Tri-County Collaborative process, and we're continuing to work on strategies to improve that program. We also had a good discussion regarding a proposal of a draft of policy 5200, which the Monterey County EMS agency would like to implement in response to state AB 40, which established a standard for APOC times in response to those new requirements and the state's language essentially stating that the new standard would not exceed or be less than 30 minutes. We had initially proposed 25, but after hearing from many of the stakeholders in the hospitals, we agreed that we would move that to 30 minutes, which is in line with the state's regulations. And so we approved and endorsed that new policy. Those are the main things to report from CCC. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to EMS Director. Report.
Thank you. In terms of the ops committee, it hasn't met, but there is in your agenda packets a director's report on some activities of the EMS agency. I do want to highlight one of them, which is the first on scene report. It is a request that Harry had placed of the EMS agency for us to produce a report that shows who's on scene first. Due to a number of reasons, staffing requirement, staffing shortages and everything, we have been struggling to put that together because it requires a lot of manual manipulation on our part. We had an intern who worked on that report. Roxanne, our epidemiologist, had found a way to be able to not have to do so much manual manipulation. We are still struggling to get that report together. We had started exploring different options, including bringing an intern that would just dedicate the time to that project. But we also started talking to, we talked to First Watch and asked them about, is it a report that they could produce? And they said that yes, it is something that they could produce, but they need access in the CAD to the fire agency's data. And right now it is filtered out. So we will be attending, we normally attend the Fire Chiefs Association regularly scheduled meetings. We will be asking at the next meeting for access to that so that we can put together that report without having to put so many resources onto it. We want to, I think it is an important report to bring to this group and would like to be able to do that, but we need to find more efficient ways for us to be able to do that. So we hope that the fire chiefs will be amicable to providing that access in the CAD for that purpose, and then we will continue to report on this. But we do have still an intern starting, right, Kimberly? Oh, yes, Serena.
May 20th.
Yeah, May 20th. So we still have the old plan A, which we're hoping it will become plan B. Yeah.
Question, Teresa,
Yes.
would that data just not be able to be pulled from your existing ESO data?
No, it is, I don't know the details of that. I see Roxanne, there's data that gets pulled, but as far as the details, I think I can let Roxanne speak to that. Because, and as to why we had to do so much manual manipulation, the data that we did get, I believe the source was ESO. And then from that, we had to do manual manipulation of the data. Again, First Watch says it's something that they do, but we would have to have access to that data just to know who got there first. If we get access, we'll be able to produce that report and bring it to committee earlier than using an intern.
I question it just because, we use ESO, we all use ESO, not just on the PCR side, but as all those are all linked in CAD and we're all already pre-populating that in ESO, we have dozens and dozens of special reports that you build out in ESO. It's a very powerful reporting tool built into ESO.
And First Watch works
should
with
not
both
take
CAD and ESO. So in some cases, am I saying that correctly, Kimberly?
Yes.
Yeah, but for this report, they said that they would need access to the CAD, to the data in the CAD, the data, in the CAD system. I mean,
So can I just add a piece of why it's complicated to it? because even though everyone is using ESO and the data is on CAD, we are comparing the first on scene, or consolidating, I should say, not comparing, consolidating the first on scene amongst all the providers, which is AMR and fire. And so a fire agency can be first on scene, but then AMR is one of their agencies can also be first. It both appear as one, as a call order arrival of one. And so there's a bit of matching that has to occur on our end with all of the ones and all of the twos. And so the process for the analysis, taking the data from the various different sources, is a consolidation of AMR's data plus all the fire agencies. And the intent is to use a software called R and Python to do that for us, which took away from the manual aspects. So it is possible, but I think the biggest challenge in getting it done is staffing. As you guys know, I've been away for quite some time and I'm just getting back, and we don't really have the capacity to do the reports. But once we can get boots on the ground, it shouldn't take that long, because we do have the ability to pull the data and do the comparisons that way.
Teresa, I have a question. What are we hoping to gather from this analysis?
Well, if I remember, Harry's original request is just to see who's on scene first, and based on the acuity of the call, the difference that makes for the patient, is my understanding.
I mean, just generically speaking, I could probably tell you that you could probably just look at geographical areas and the concentration of the deployment of the ambulances. I mean, that's probably an indicator of which service areas get what unit first. I mean, if you look at our district, I would say probably 95% of the time, it's going to be a fire engine arriving first.
Right.
Where in the city of Salinas, the city of Monterey, the population basis, right, it's probably going to be a more closer to 50-50 spread.
It could be, but it was a request that was given to the EMS agency by one of the committee members.
Yeah. So if the analysis shows that there are areas in our county that would be more beneficial for a larger ambulance deployment, is that going to play into that of like, hey, look, we have a lot of pockets that 90% of the time the fire engines are getting there, where definitive care getting into the hospital are going to make a difference. So will we use that information to set up a different deployment plan to get ambulances closer to those areas that are quote unquote underserved?
The information would have to be used appropriately for the improvement of the system.
Yeah, so when we talked about this in our smaller group, it also has to do with giving credit for fire for being on scene first and initiating care, that we are thinking with our AMR reports isn't happening, when we know that if fire is first on scene, there's a lot of things that are happening that are going to benefit the patient before AMR gets there. So it's more about clinical significance of you guys being on scene first and getting things started.
And I think it's also just good just to see what is and what isn't. And I want to expand a little bit. I know I've been on the committee, I don't know, 4 or 5 years, and I know that with certain things, there seems to be challenges obtaining data. And I'm just wondering, as we looked at the EMCC or the EMSA's report, and you're looking at your goals for the next year, if maybe, there should be a look at or a review of the software and the databases that you have, in terms of like figuring out if you need to buy additional things, or there needs to be additional training or some type of a modification so that you can get easier, more accessible information, because so much of an EMS system's decision-making process is based off of facts driven by data. And if we don't have that ability, and it's not, it's overly cumbersome having to have somebody do it manually when you risk the chance of error. But it also, it just makes it more difficult. And I would just kind of throw that out there that maybe it's time to consider looking at what we're using or what the EMFA is using to drive this data and see if there's something better for you.
Are you thinking about a different provider instead of ESO?
I don't know. I mean, to be honest with you, it might be something, and I'm totally shooting from the hip here because I am not a tech guy, okay? I'm just speaking very generically, but hypothetically speaking, let's say that there's something that could be purchased or modified or done in ESO. Okay, and maybe that's done through, I don't know, communication with the company or something like that. Then they go in and they set it up and we set up how, or we change what's required in an EMS report or something like that. And so that when providers, individual engine companies and ambulance companies are doing their reports, they're required to put in the information, then it goes in there. And then you have clean data that goes in and that can be extracted.
And we do that, Chief. We do work with our provider ESO. Sometimes we don't know the challenge until we receive a request and we venture into that project. And sometimes it may be an error on our part where we make certain assumptions and then we find out, that's not the way it is, it's this element. But that's part of the reason why we started exploring other avenues with this particular project because of the challenges that we had experienced. But we couldn't really focus our attention on that project because we are being pulled in so many different directions. So when we were able to focus some time and we decided this is, the progress is very slow, we need to look at something else. Now, First Watch is one of the providers of data for the county, through AMR. And they do all of that compliance reports, so they have a very sophisticated system. So that's why we decided to say, well, let's talk to them and see what if they can help with this request. But what you're mentioning, Chief, that's one of the things that we do. I mean, Blake is our key point person to deal with ESO. We have regularly scheduled meetings, and when we see we have challenges with reports, we are meeting with them to create queries, ad hoc reports, and things that we can turn into standard reports where we can only change the date range of what we need, and we don't have to keep recreating every report, running it, the parameters of those queries. But we have had some challenges with ESO. I am not going to sugarcoat that part. That there have been some challenges with ESO. I think it is fair to say that there will be challenges with any system. We did do an RFP for the contract that was awarded to ESO. We did that almost 8 years ago, I think, in a committee of representatives of the system. We're part of that committee that selected ESO, but even, whether we need to revisit that, it is something that is always up for discussion. And if we think that it's time to look at a different system, I think that one of the reasons that ESO was selected is probably because the fire agencies in the system were already using ESO. So creating that county-wide system would have been easier because ESO was already used by the providers in the county.
Thank you, Harry Head.
No, I think that the question back here was very germane. I think with this data, we should be able to look at the macro system. And if we need to reassess deployment, training, resources, any element of the system, that type of data will enable that. That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah, I like extracting new reports, thinking that we're going to see something, and sometimes it takes you in a whole different direction. But that's the beauty of the data.
It may give us confirmation. It may give us confirmation that
validate,
we're doing everything appropriate. So,
and it give us other areas to look at. So, yeah.
I think the fact that we have so many agencies involved is really an important element of this. And they all do very well. There's consistency. But we want to look for any anomalies that may exist within the system, and that should give us things.
One suggestion, just to carry on to Harry's point, I think you need to turn a filter on. Because all ambulances in our county are created equally, but not all fire engines are created equally. So I really think you need to turn a filter on to say, was an ALS engine or a BLS engine? And to his point, if we're identifying that these BLS engines are getting there, and if they could have given a breathing treatment or something simpler as that for a high acuity call, we're still waiting for the ALS provider to get there. So offering the resources to those BLS departments like in Greenfield, Gonzales, Soledad, the areas that are underserved, and pumping resources into those areas to assist them. I think that's an important filter to turn on, is the distinguishment of the ALS versus BLS engine company arriving first on scene.
Is that in CAD?
But
Is it in CAD?
it's identified in our CAD as medic engine or engine, yes.
It should be identifiable.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
so we want to go to the Fire Chiefs Association meeting that we attend, and make the request to turn that filter on.
So the report will show first on scene ALS, BLS, first deployment, or I'm sorry, first medical contact and then deployment of treatment. Or is- I'm sorry, still in the works.
say.
Well, I guess if I
I
could make a
can't say
request, I think that
exactly.
would illustrate, I think, what we're trying to look at, and yeah, happy to help.
Well, I think I have something, I was gonna bring it up later, but I think it fits into this because I'm seeing kind of a larger picture. And in the larger picture being reevaluating and discussing the data points that we're currently looking at and monitoring. And for instance, like I'm interested in, the service or the amount of services being provided to the prison and how that affects the overall system, how many resources are being sent there on a daily basis and what that looks like over a period of time. Is it increasing, decreasing, et cetera? But there's certainly other things that are just as important, and one of those we just discussed. So I don't know, as maybe a future agenda item, the next meeting, we should put on there a discussion in terms of what data points we want to look at. I mean, certainly the ones that we're looking at are good. They seem to be contractually driven, but if there are some that are baked at the EMS system as a whole, it might be a good opportunity to begin adding those. I'm open for discussion or counter to that.
The one thing I will offer, pardon me, we are in a report phase. Doing discussion on items like this take us kind of out of the Brown Act requirements we have for noticing and agendizing items. Try to give some leeway before I jump in, but we are in report phase. If we start a discussion, it's not agendized.
Yeah, I'm not saying we discuss it, I'm saying we put it on an agenda for the future for discussion.
Yeah.
I agree.
Everyone
Does that go to a vote or?
No.
No.
Chicken.
Okay, thank you. Was that both of yours?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
D Mohawk, Deborah.
Deborah's not, it's gonna be me. Kimberly's gonna cover.
Okay, so I'm gonna give a mock report for Deborah. So some highlights in regards to the Rocky Creek slide, the EMS agency coordinated with EMS providers and non-standard providers of helicopter services to prepare and release transport guidance due to the road closure. We continue to monitor the situation routinely and participate in coordination calls with the emergency, EOM, Department of Emergency Management. We have also regularly updated our disaster region on any EMS issues related to the slide and resulting road closures. The EMS agency participated in the planning meetings leading up to the recent active attacker tabletop exercise hosted by the Bay Area WASI. We also participated in the tabletop exercise, and there was great participation and discussion surrounding the response to MCIs in general and active attacker incidents. We also participated in recent trainings or exercises related to pediatric patient surge events and the hospital incident command system and evacuation of long-term care facilities. And we are regularly participating with public health, hospital emergency management personnel, EMS providers, and our RDMHS to plan a functional exercise testing hospital surge capacity that is scheduled to take place on June 11th. Any questions? Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and stay up here. 'Cause my minute
Excellent.
is-
EMS system performance metrics.
Okay, so communication systems testing, the 800 megahertz testing and ReadyNet drawings were included in your agenda packet. Does anyone have any questions on the communications testing? Okay, I'll go into contract compliance. Again, contract compliance PowerPoint was included in your agenda packet. I just want to briefly go over that all priorities met or exceeded 90% compliance for the months we're reporting on, February and March, with the exception of priority 6, which is CCT scheduled for overall response time compliance, which was at 87%. But I do want to point out that the 100 call rule does not apply to the overall response time compliance. So they were at 87%. There was only 24 responses in February, and 3 of them are late. Any questions on response time compliance? Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Old business, EMCC reappointment, Steve.
So included in your packet was a little summary of where those who are up for reappointment this year stand as far as the information that we need to receive so we can move the nomination forward to the Board of Supervisors. In addition to what you see on the summary form, we've received the appointments for the BLS fire people, and that really leaves Spencer. Just you tell us that you're on board. Probably need something right. They'll just drop me an email, say, yep, you're up. And then for the city managers, so we'll be reaching out to that. Otherwise, we're good to go with what we need to move forward. And then Dr. Lutz has accepted the ED physician position, and we'll be happy to have her. Got the info we need to move forward with her also. So any questions related to appointments? I was gonna bring it up later, but sorry, I forgot to do it for today. We are going to, at our next meeting, start our new year, and we will need a new chair. So be thinking about at the next meeting, who you might want to nominate for chair. And if there's anybody who might be interested, they might want to just sort of say, yeah, I might still be interested.
I might still be interested.
Okay. So anyways, that's it for committee membership. And we will need a nomination for a vice chair also.
And we'll be doing that next meeting.
Next month, we'll do nominations and election all at the same time.
Okay, ambulance RFP, Teresa.
Thank you. We're still plugging along. We've been revising, researching, making revisions, and consulting with the consultant who's providing technical assistance to the agency, county council, contracts purchasing, and even reaching out to the state just to make sure that, you know, the changes that we're making are okay. They're getting the green thumb, the thumb up or the green light. At this stage, I know everybody's been interested in hearing more of a timeline. Our target award date is towards the end of October, with a release date of probably July. And the dates in between are being filled in, and that can be subject to change based on the final approval from the state.
Comments, questions? Thank you, Teresa. EMS ordinance revision, Deborah.
That item is tabled for now.
Okay. Health data exchange, Blake.
All right. Just give me a moment to walk up there and just a brief update for everybody.
So good morning, all. In your packet, you did receive a report on our HDE program. Things are going very well. Very brief overview of that report. As we have our data working groups, we've been talking about projects such as EMPI, which is an additional system for the HDE program that should help with outcomes potentially, and discussing the utilization of that program. Along with that, we've been, the EMS agency has been monitoring outcome report matches, and this is seeing how many PCRs are receiving an outcome match with the hospital. We're seeing progress with that. And also, at each of these meetings, we constantly monitor the progress of every hospital and where they are at, whether if they are fully completed with the implementation of the HDE program or where they're at in the build of that. That all that information is listed in the report, but does anyone have any questions on HDE at this time? Hearing none, thank you very much.
EMCC annual report, Steve.
So at the last meeting, we received direction as agency staff to create a draft of the EMCC annual report, taking a look at the minutes and agendas from the past year, the 2023 calendar year, and put together some of the highlights that EMCC has looked at. And we used the first report, which was done for the 2022 year, and as kind of the basis, and then we expanded on it. It seemed like, you know, the report should have a little more discussion of the things that this committee reviewed and the findings that this committee accepted. So that's how you see some of the format of your report. Also, if you could, in the corner there, pass a couple down that way. We also, since we sent the draft report out to you, just take some of those, send it this way. Had the chair create a letter. It's on the second page of this form. So it was a cover letter for the report. So here's a copy of that for you. So get cover page. If you guys like this, the look of that, we'll just add a date, and then you'll notice the message from the chair. And if you like that, we'll get the chair to sign that, and give you a moment to look at that, and then we'll move on into the body of the report. And so accepting comments related to the message from the chair.
Is it appropriate to make a motion on this?
Let's do discussion on it, and then we'd be
Okay.
happy to, at least open for discussion, be my recommendation. But as far as any discussion on the message from the chair, is okay with that?
Nice job,
It's
Chief.
perfectly acceptable to me.
I thought so too, but you know, I don't get a vote in this
It's a
matter.
letter.
Okay, I'm happy to share, oops, green left.
Do you need something I can help?
Yeah, I was gonna share my screen.
Are you on Zoom already?
I'm on Zoom, so let me get to the meeting thing here. Here's Zoom. All right, share screen.
Do you have the ability, right?
I'm a panelist, so I should. I don't see, here we go. There we go. All right, so here's the report. Just want to run through a couple of highlights about it, kind of what the sections are. So we've gone with the just a basic summary. Why we're doing this report. We have requirements from the Health and Safety Code, purpose, the of the EMCC, because the board, you know, they've got lots of committees, so we might as well tell them what we do. According to the Health and Safety Code, these are areas which the EMCC is to look at. Talk about the membership. And of course, we list all the members. You will notice that on the citizen rep members, we list who was in the position during the calendar year. Ex officio members. And then these are the activities that EMCC was involved in this, in 2023. The reports that we receive each month, which we, you know, already got today. As you can see, we are now with some of these giving what EMCC's concluded, if you will, from these, from the reports. In this case, scope of the report. Pulse point was major item of discussion throughout the year. We got that finished. Looked at the training programs. Our training programs are doing very well, which is again reflected in the report. Various endorsements.
Steve, comment on that?
Yeah.
Unless the board of supervisors haven't let Chief Sargent know, could you change our name, the Monterey County Regional Fire? Unless the board supervisor wants to give us all the districts.
I'm sorry, where?
It says, where it says, in addition, and it says, it's about our expanded scope.
Oh, here.
You just missed a word, that's all.
Ah, yes.
Appreciate it, thank you.
I don't know.
Better?
Last line on that paragraph also, Steve.
Of course, you know, we've got a wonderful buprenorphine program going, HDEs moving forward. Talk about the SWOT analysis, of course, the RFP is big. Talk about the subcommittees. Change in the subcommittee, and that's the end of the report. So at this point, is there any discussion? Or we can let Harry move with endorsement.
The motion should include addition to that change and the addition of the cover letter.
I would move that we accept this report, subject to the changes that were recommended by the chief, and move forward.
In addition of the cover letter.
I mean, it should cover.
Second.
Sure. And Harry,
All in favor?
that's right, I did catch second. All right. And do voice vote? That's fine. You can do voice vote.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Abstentions?
Okay.
Okay, thanks
Thank
for
you.
doing that, Steve.
Oh, yeah.
EMS annual report.
The EMS annual report was sent to the committee for review also. I think we sent a draft earlier. We need your endorsement as well, so that we can get it to the Board of Supervisors. Our goal is to get it to the Board of Supervisors for the May 21st board meeting. We will be moving dual tracks, waiting for the endorsement here. So that it will conduct the acceptance of the report by the Board of Supervisors will coincide with the EMS week. We've tried to make that every year, you know, just to highlight it, bring more attention to EMS, you know, by giving that report to the supervisors at that time. So we would like your endorsement so that we can move forward and be able to make that deadline.
It's a very detailed report. I hope that it will be read as intended. I would like to move that we endorse the report.
There was a lot of discussion about looking for additional fees to make the budget work.
Okay.
Can you tell me, do you have restrictions as to where you can look for fees? Does the EMS authority say what you can and cannot tax or fee?
No, there are certain areas where the regs will specify if a fee can be included. But for the most part, no. The EMS agency is primarily funded by a special tax that was implemented back in the 90s, if I remember correctly.
Harry and I remember.
Yeah. And so what happened is that whatever was happening at the time, it didn't consider the future. It capped the CSA 74 at $12 per parcel. We reached that cap in fiscal year 2000, 2001. So it has remained flat and cost has continued to increase. That fee hasn't changed. And when you look at the value of the dollar, the $12 per parcel fee right now should be like 26, 27 bucks. Had it gone up consistently with the CPI, a conservative 2.5.
Oh, I understand that. I'm curious where you're gonna look to collect fees.
Okay, so we would not be looking at any area that is not already sort of a standard across the board, statewide. I can tell you where everybody charges fees, and we're looking at that. So in addition to the CSA 74, we are also funded by MADI funds, which is a fee that is charged to certain traffic violations. And that revenue has been decreasing over the last 3 years, Karina?
Yes.
Yeah. So we've been experiencing a flat 12%, $12 per parcel fee on the CSA 74. We are experiencing a decline in the MADI fee, and there's talk that is gonna go away. We do have a fee for the trauma center that was implemented when the trauma center was designated. And that one does have an escalation, so it has sort of kept up with increasing cost. And that's it. Those have been the only fees that we've ever charged. Other fees that are charged across the board is for STEMI designation, stroke designation, base hospital designation, aircraft fees. We just got the board approval for that. There's also the processing of EMT and paramedic applications. Now, we are a government agency. We can't make money. So what we do is that we look at the cost of providing services. We apply the CSA 74 fee across the board. Any dedicated funding, MADI is very dedicated. We can only use it for specific purposes. So we apply that, and then we close the gap with CSA 74. We also get some general funds, but those are to cover costs that are already allocated to us by the county. Everything from county council to everything, right? The administration, all of that. So, and then we have to cover a part of it. So it's not additional money that comes to us for our regular operations. It's to cover the costs that are already allocated to us. So other fees I was talking about, the other fees that are charged by LEMSAs across the state are the STEMI, stroke, base hospital, EMT paramedic applications, aircraft, and paramedic training programs, the CE programs also get charged a fee. And they're usually just to recoup some of the cost of providing that service. That's it. So we are looking at the cost of providing the services, plug in dedicated funding in the programs that they have where we cannot use them anywhere else, CSA 74, general fund, and then we're looking at those gaps. And we had actually proposed, we actually met with the hospitals and have proposed the STEMI stroke and the base hospital fees, because it seems fair too that it shouldn't be just Natividad paying a fee for being in the trauma center, and thus any stroke in these hospitals are not paying similar fees.
And so, and then the board of supervisors has to approve any
Yes.
fee.
Yes, yeah, yeah, I mean, we would love, I used to be a grant writer. I would love to be able to go after funding, but we don't have the bandwidth. We're not even fully staffed at this point. We're still down 2 positions. For us, we're a small agency. One position, it really affects our operation, what we're able to accomplish, and we really need to be fully staffed.
So Teresa, was that position, was it a cut in the position or just your inability because you didn't have enough candidates to fill it?
Which one?
You said you're down a position.
No, we're down 2 positions.
Okay.
We're down the health program coordinator, and we are down 1 EMS analyst position. We had hired, at the same time that we hired Blake, we hired Jesse,
So
and then Jesse left.
is it a funding or is it the ability to obtain qualified personnel?
Well, it's a combination. So, the positions have remained vacant for a number of reasons. Part of it is, I mean, the positive of it is that we have salary savings, right? But we need the positions that they're vacant because people left, and we haven't been able to recruit. But we do have to look at our long-term planning for the funding of the agency, and plan accordingly when it comes to the staffing. The HR is doing an analysis of the position, the EMS analyst position, that has delayed our ability to recruit. Actually, HR just released last week, maybe about a week ago, the recruitment for the health program coordinator. And they're in the final stages of finalizing, I think, the analysis for the EMS analyst position, and then we'll be able to recruit for that as well.
So I can definitely relate with funding challenges as a government agency. I would throw out there, I would imagine that this body has the ability to support you. So I would say to you as the director, if you have, or you're going to do some type of a financial analysis and make some recommendations, and you were to present it to this committee for our endorsement to carry some weight with the board of directors, I would imagine everybody in here would be happy to do that, or at least, want to support you as much as possible.
I think we've done that in the past as well. I can't cite specific instances, but we have endorsed or implied agreement with that way.
And that would be the plan, and we would love your endorsement on that, because as you know, implementing new fees they're not welcome by anybody, but they are needed, and that is the plan. I mean, we had to go internally and do our own analysis of where and how much the gaps are. We were planning to bring to a full schedule of fees, but we ran into some problems there.
And a quick question, and Harry, you could probably enlighten me on this. It's in 1988, I was still in elementary school. But when CSA 74 was presented to the taxpayers, what was the intent of it? Was it because the way I read it, it's to provide countywide paramedic emergency medical services. So what was sold to the taxpayer?
We had no
provide medics on the
paramedics
street?
at the time. There were no paramedics in the county. It was to bring paramedics into the county.
Okay. So. But was it to fund the LEMSA? I guess that's where
Yeah.
and rather than creating a fee schedule, why don't we take it to the will of the taxpayers, and just like the rest of us have to do, to ask them, hey, this is where we're identifying our shortfalls, let the taxpayers decide.
We did look into that, Chief, but we met with the county elections because we wanted to take advantage of one of the elections, and they told us for us to be able to do that, we would have to cover our share of the cost of the election, which for the EMS agency was almost $2 million, just to start, with no guarantee that it would pass.
We understand that. I'm just concerned with creating the fee schedules. I think because we talked about this earlier or in another meeting, was the fees are gonna directly impact the agencies, the hospitals, the first responder agencies. Because I know you're saying you're just gonna charge for processing the EMT and the paramedic certifications, but all of our agencies reimbursed our employees for that cost, so it's a pass-through, right? Even though we get a little bit of CSA 74 money distributed to us, it's almost like it's circling right back. So that's where I guess, the original question was, the intent was to provide the services on the streets, right? Not in the background. So that's my concern. And again, right? I mean, you need to do what you need to do, but that's just my concern.
No, and you mentioned that before, Chief, and I think we addressed it because I don't think there has been a fee intended for the fire agencies in the schedule. I mean, we're talking about STEMI stroke, and even when we talked about EMT and paramedics, you know, again, I'm saying we were considering the fees and doing that analysis. So we are mindful of the challenges and the impact, for instance, for individual EMT and paramedics, what that fee could be.
No implementation of fees can go down without consideration of the impacts, where they come to rest. And I am very concerned about any fees that would go down onto agencies that are hard pressed to, you know, they're dealing with a challenging financial situation at present.
Well, we are, Chief.
We all are. So, yeah, it's an austere world.
Yeah.
And,
I mean, it's not the world that we live in, and frankly, the Monterey County, the County of Monterey is one of the few agencies that doesn't charge fees. We only have the trauma center fee. Everybody charges, there's a schedule of the LEMSA, the fees that all the LEMSAs charge, and they're everywhere. And I think that right now, you know, again, to me, you know, like I said, only Natividad pays a fee right now. If we're looking at a system-wide to minimize the burden, so that it's not just one, we're looking at the different fees, but it's another intricate balancing act that we have that is on our hands to balance, you know.
Once you open that door, it's hard to tell who's gonna run through it.
Yeah.
So, you know, anything we do, you know, anything of that nature would require discussion here.
We're definitely trying to.
Get all the voices on the table.
We're definitely trying to minimize any impact on the agencies. We are taking in consideration all of the funding that we do have. Restricted funding, we can do anything about. It can only be used for the purpose that is intended. Like I said, the general fund, it doesn't even cover the cost of the county transfers to all of the departments. Is offsetting some of that, but we are still having to cover some of that ourselves. And we did try. I mean, before we were considering the fees, we thought we could, you know, try to increase the CSA 74. I mean, for it to not have changed since fiscal year 2000, 2001, I think it merits that increase. It probably would be not such a major increase as, you know, maybe some of the, compared to the fees, you know, like if you're looking at the dollar amount. But CSA 74 increase just wasn't an option for us at this time. But we definitely will bring that to the committee in the future.
Okay. Any other comments? The report.
We do need an endorsement for the annual report.
None? Okay, would someone like to make
We got a motion.
We've got a motion.
The second.
Yours? Okay. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Okay, announcements for the good of the order.
There's no scheduled new business.
I'd like to add an item to business for future agenda. I'd like to add for future agenda item, discussion and action on an EMS policy 3030 that deals, section 3D4 that deals with the reporting of determinant codes in the CAD from two first responders when they're assigned through EMS dispatch. I'd like to hear about the compliance with that, percentage of compliance, whether or not that's being done consistently.
Question, Chief, would that be more appropriate for the ops committee? Or here?
I'm asking the question, I would like to discuss it as a compliance issue.
Okay, so you're recommending we discuss it here in the EMCC. Okay.
Do we need a motion on that or?
That's just-
I think that's good. And then, kind of circle back what we discussed earlier about adding an agenda item to discuss data points and information that we are obtaining and reporting to this group.
Recommendation that if we're going to discuss that, and I agree with it, let's start with a clear definition of the data points that are presently being used. Implicit is that, so.
Review and then discuss.
Yes, review what exists, what is currently employed, and then take it from there.
Chief, if you don't mind, do you mind we connect offline just so that I understand better? And that way we can, the EMS agency can be prepared for.
That's fine.
our
I just wanted it to
presentation.
be in the record.
All right, thank you.
Any other? Very good. Next meeting, scheduled for Wednesday.
Oh.
July.
I guess.
July.
No,
Yeah, I'm sorry.
July.
I got it.
Is the date right?
No, it's
No.
July. You just say in
I
here,
don't have my calendar with me.
July 10th, that sounds about right, because I think the
July 10th.
4th is Tuesday, so
Fourth is Thursday.
4th is Wednesday, that'd be the July 11th.
So, the 10th?
10th.
Okay.
Yeah.
Next meeting scheduled for Wednesday, July 10th, 2024 at 10:30 a.m. I'd like to adjourn the meeting.
Thank you all.